The room went quiet in a way I'd never heard before, not the polite silence after a toast, or the warm pause before laughter, but the kind that feels like the air itself is holding its breath. My mother was smiling, wine glass raised, cheeks flushed from the heat of the Christmas party and maybe from pride. My father stood beside her, hand resting on her shoulder, nodding like this was the most natural thing in the world. "We gave $1.3 million to your sister," my mom said brightly, like she just announced a vacation destination. For the new house, I felt my chest tighten, but my face didn't move. I didn't blink. I didn't speak. I just stood there, holding a porcelain plate that suddenly felt much heavier than it should have. The tree lights reflected off the ornaments, soft gold and red dancing across the walls. My sister laughed, covering her mouth as if she were embarrassed, though I knew that laugh. I'd known it my whole life. It was the laugh she used when she got what she wanted and wanted everyone to know it without looking ungrateful. Everyone turned to me. I smiled and sighed. Something old and familiar stirred, something I'd spent years pretending wasn't there, growing up. My sister was the miracle, the golden child, the one who needed just a little more help, a little more understanding, a little more forgiveness. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who would be fine. When she dropped out of college, my parents paid her rent. When she started a business that failed in under a year, they covered the losses. When she married a man who burned through money like it offended him to save it, my parents nodded and said love was an investment. When I worked 2 jobs through grad school, no one offered to help. They praised my independence instead. So when my mother said $1.3 million, I believed it instantly. I also believed they hadn't mentioned it to me before for a reason. I raised my glass. "That's incredible," I said softly. My voice sounded steady, even to me. "I'm happy for you." My sister beamed. My parents relaxed. The moment passed and conversation resumed, loud and merry and careless. But something shifted in me that night. Not anger, not jealousy. Clarity. Later, when the party thinned and coats were gathered, my father hugged me by the door. "You're doing okay, right?" he asked, lowering his voice like he always did when pretending to check in. "I am," I said. "Really?" That part wasn't a lie. What I didn't say was that I'd been doing more than okay for a long time. I'd built a life quietly, strategically, without asking them for a single dollar. I learned early that asking came with conditions and comparisons. What they didn't know was that I'd been handling the family finances for years, not directly, of course, but through my job. I'm a forensic accountant. I specialize in tracing complex asset movements, untangling trusts, shell companies, and gifts that are never quite as simple as they sound. And about 2 years earlier, my parents had asked me casually, confidently, to review their estate documents, just to make sure everything was clean. They trusted me, after all. I was a responsible one. And because I loved them, I'd done exactly that. What I found back then had bothered me. Not because it was illegal, at least not on the surface, but because it was lopsided. Transfers rooted in ways that favored my sister heavily. Loans forgiven without documentation. Assets shifted under the assumption that I would never question it. I'd saved copies, not out of spite, out of habit. After Christmas, I didn't confront anyone. I didn't cry to my husband or rant to friends. I simply waited. In March, my sister called me, breathless and stressed. "Hey," she said, skipping pleasantries. "Mom said you're really good with money stuff. Do you think you could look over something for us?" Something turned out to be a notice. A problem with the way the house purchase had been structured. The gift wasn't as clean as they thought. It had tax implications. Serious ones. I agreed to help. Over the next few weeks, I reviewed everything. Not just the house paperwork, but the trail behind the $1.3 million, where it came from, how it was labeled, how it intersected with my parents' retirement accounts, and quietly, meticulously, I documented the risks. In April, I asked my parents to meet me for lunch. They arrived smiling, relaxed, unaware. We ordered salads, small talk flowed, then I slid a thin folder across the table. "What's this?" my mom asked. "Just something I wanted to walk you through," I said calmly. Especially after the Christmas gift. My father opened it, his smile faded line by line. I didn't accuse, I didn't raise my voice. I explained the gift, as structured, exposed them to penalties they hadn't anticipated. It also created a clear, documented imbalance in the estate, one that could be challenged later. Not by me, I made clear, by the system. If anything happens to either of you, I said gently, this could get very messy and very public. My mom's hands trembled slightly. "We just wanted to help her." "I know," I said. "But helping her shouldn't mean risking everything you worked for, or assuming I'll clean it up later." Silence settled again. Different from Christmas, heavier, real. "I can fix it," I added. "But it requires restructuring, transparency, and boundaries." My father nodded slowly. "What kind of boundaries?" I met his eyes, equal ones. They didn't argue. By summer, the trust was rebalanced, the house gift was reclassified properly. Future transfers were capped, documented, fair. My sister was furious when she found out. She called me selfish, cold, accused me of trying to control our parents. I listened. I said nothing because I didn't do it to punish her. I did it to stop pretending that silence was kindness. At the next family gathering, no one raised a glass to money. My parents hugged me longer than usual. My sister barely spoke to me. And I was okay with that. Because the quiet I chose this time wasn't the kind that swallowed me whole. It was the kind that finally let me breathe. If you want to hear more stories like this, stay close. There's always another truth waiting.